Well, early puberty, pre-puberty, up to probably 2021. We will be covering the topics of healthy sexuality, how to identify healthy sexual behaviors, how to be in tune with your body and recognize the things that are going on in the transition from early puberty to young adult years, and how to get the proper medical attention that you need in those transitions. Just be kind to yourself. Feel good about the changes that you're having, that you're going through, and not beat yourself up. Look for like minds and like spirits and people to hang around in those critical years. And just know that as you are healthy sexually, as you are making good choices, things will happen for you, and you should have a good transition from teen, preteen, into your young adult, your adult years.
Hi everybody, again it's me, Talia Holden Brooks, and I'll be running the Coping and Stress Workshop. 3 things I'd like for you to take away. Number 1, stress is a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. Stress is our body's way of letting us know, hey, something's going on that you might need to deal with. So feel free to take advantage of coping skills to help reduce your stress. Number 2, when it comes to pain, stress can actually make pain worse, physical and emotional pain. Try to find ways to manage that stress to help reduce pain also. And third thing I would like for you to take away is that, again, you are in charge of your medical care. You're the manager of your medical team. Let them know what's going on for you. If there's anything that you're experiencing, if there are any questions that you have, let them know so that you can be able to get the resources you need, including referrals for mental health services in order to manage stress if it's too great. Thank you.
So my name is Lysandra Patterson, and my workshop is going to be on the basics of money management. And I guess the 3 things that I would like the students or the transition people to walk away with is money management is personal. So it's personal and specific to whatever your needs are. There's always going to be a need to manage what you have, because no matter how much money you make, if you're not able to maintain it, you're always going to live paycheck to paycheck. And so the 3 things I would say I want them to take away is 1, money management is specific to whatever their needs are, and build wealth or save so that they can have a lifestyle that, that's conducive to whatever lifestyle that they want to do, is the second thing. And the third thing is, it doesn't have to be this boring, it's not accounting, and it's not rocket science. It's as simple as you want it to be. It's as difficult as you want it to be.
Good morning. My name is Deborah Taylor, and I'm here to present for the parents on transition. I am the mom of 2 young adults that have sickle cell, so I've been in transition for a while. Key points that I would like for the parents to remember, and also to teach the young people, it's an acronym, and it's GLAD with 2 D's. G-L-A double D as in Deborah. GLAD. Give, listen, advocate, decide, and do.
I'm Dr. Mildred Brown, and I'm retired assistant superintendent for Mount Diablo Schools. I supported all the special ed and health services in that district, and retired last June, and I've had an opportunity now to be working as a consultant, and I'm working in San Francisco Unified. I'm working on the Section 504 plan in making the program more robust. And today what I wanted to share with the students is that it's very important that they go and try to get a plan in place that's going to support them if in fact that they're in have a particular health condition like sickle cell. So today it was creating a network of support, and the support started with self-advocacy, because the students themselves are their best and biggest advocate. In order for them to be an advocate, they have to know all and everything about their sickle cell condition, and then share that with others to build a team of advocates for their support. The other area we talked about is in college, that it may not be called Section 504. It may in fact be Americans with Disabilities Act, and that all colleges have this office that supports students who have a medical or health condition like sickle cell. And then when they move from the school world, then when they move into work and in a career, they also need to be able to access the supports that are available through their employment office, our human resource office, because there's always someone who can assist them in developing a accommodation plan that would support them.
So my name is Dr. Annie Marsh, and I had the opportunity to talk to the kids today about sex and sexuality. So we got to talk about sex. And there were kind of three main points that I wanted to capture today. And one was to respect yourself and respect your body, and make sure that other people are respecting your body as well. And that sex can be a great thing, and it's a really healthy thing as long as you approach it in an educated way and you protect yourself, which was the number two thing we talked about, was protection. And then the third thing was just empowering yourself with knowledge to be able to make informed, healthy decisions about sex and sexuality.
I'm going to ask Dr. Craig Adams to come forward and bless us with his wonderful words of wisdom related to transition.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How many of you were here last year? Oh, okay. Well, I've been blessed with the opportunity to come and speak once again on transition. And I feel privileged, but I'm also not the only voice in the area. I know I'm uniquely different, and I usually do a disclaimer before I start speaking. I consider myself a deviant. I'm warning you so that whatever I say, you understand. I figured I'd deviate from the norm by at least 2 standard deviations. The problem is, I don't want to be with the norm. If you look at the norm, particularly for African American males, it's not very promising in this country. You have to go outside of the norm. Now we're talking about transition. Transition means movement, usually to another position, change. And change is scary. Change is usually very, very uncomfortable because you're moving into the unknown. Those of you that can remember, think back when you were moving from elementary school to middle school or junior high. You're in your last year of elementary school, you're familiar with the settings, you're the oldest of the kids on the campus, you were running the show. Top dog. But now it's ready to move to the next level, and you're going to be the new ones on the campus. Remember that anxiety? The unknown, wanting to be grown, but scary about being grown at the same time. Then you get through middle school, junior high. It's time to move on to high school. And that same anxiety occurs because it's human nature to resist change. We don't like change, even though a lot of times change is good for us. Most of us avoid change. Most people will not change until the pain of the change, of not changing, finally passes the pain of the fear of not changing. So most of us don't change until we have to. And we get caught in ruts. Like if you go to a restaurant, you find an excellent dish. I like Chinese food. I go to the restaurant, I order Kung Pao chicken because I like hot food. I like spiciness. I like spiciness throughout my life. My life is spicy. I stay in trouble because I'm spicy. My wife is spicy. My kids are spicy. I just like spiciness. But if I order the same meal every time I come, how do I know they don't have a better one on that menu? If I don't change once in a while, how do I know I'm not losing out to something that may taste even better? But what's the risk? I might choose something that tastes worse. And then I think I wasted my money. I could have had Kung Pao chicken. But you have to be willing to take the risk to move on. Now, as you grow and transition, you're in a position when you work with Children's Hospital, you're in a position where you get a lot of support. But when you become adults, you have to move on and learn to find your own support system. That's scary, but that's transition. It's scary, but it can be a positive part of growth. People who take risks tend to come out better and higher and above those who won't take risks. That's how scary life is. You have to be willing to step out into the unknown in order to find out there was a better opportunity out there. Will you step out and sometimes fall? Absolutely. It's a hard, cruel, evil world out there. But your successes will definitely outweigh your failures. In fact, about every 10 years they do a study. They used to do it with octogenarians. Anyone know what an octogenarian is?
100 plus?
100? That would be a centenarian.
Oh.
Octogenarian? 80. They used to do, but they need the 100 plus now.
Yes,
because people are living older and older. But when you live to be 80, that used to be a whole lot back in the day. So they would interview people who had made it to 80 years old, and they still do. And they asked them, how did you live this long? What did you do? And of course, they found out they got nothing they could work with. Because half of the group would say, I never smoked a cigarette, I never took a drink. The other half would say, I smoke a cigar every day, and I have 2 drinks of mine. It was all confused. But there was one thing the octogenarians always agreed upon. When they asked them the question, if you could go back to your 20s, knowing everything you know now that you're over 80, what would you do differently to improve your life? If you could back yourself up to 20, knowing everything you know now that you're 80, what would you do differently? And every time they do this research, the majority of the group gives the same answer. And the answer is, if I could back up and do it over again, I would take more risks. I would step out and I would try new things. I would transition. I would change. I would take that chance because I kept myself from climbing as high as I could because I was afraid of taking that chance. You don't want to be in that situation. You do not want to be in that situation because there are 2 ingredients for success. 2 ingredients. One of them is taking risks, and the other is perseverance. Sticking to it. If you have those 2 ingredients, you're going to make it whatever you try to do in life. You're going to make it. Now, here's the problem. The problem is we give up our power. We all have God-given power. And we give it up. No one can take your power. Let me say that again. No one can take your power, even unto death. Martin Luther King, he had power. He would not let anyone take it, throw him in jail, threaten him, threaten his family. He would not surrender his power, even unto death. Malcolm X, he had power. He would not surrender it. Jesus Christ, he had power. He would not surrender it. Now, what do I mean by surrendering your power? How do you know if you're giving up your power? You're giving up your power if you set a goal. And when you're focused on that goal, if you allow any outside distractor, anyone who tries to dissuade you, any outside obstacle to take your energy from that goal and focus on them, you've given up your power. I can use myself as an example. I was not originally raised in this country. That's part of why I'm deviant. My father was military. Most of my young years I was raised in France. In France, after World War II, they weren't interested in whether you were black or white. They were interested in whether you were American or French. If you were American, we had the atomic bomb. We ended the war with the atomic bomb. They figured if you were American, you were technologically superior to us. So they expected us, we Americans, to do better in math and science than the general French population. And guess what happened to the American students in the French schools? We did better in math and science. Because you will meet the expectations of those around you if you aren't consciously aware of what's happening. In this country, I'm sorry to say, the expectation was we're integrating our schools. If you're black, you probably won't do that well in math and science. And our kids listen to that garbage. Give up their power. They transition into a new school and they meet the expectations of those that are talking that garbage. So I said, no. When I got back to this country, I landed in this country just finishing up 6th grade. Right in the middle of the civil rights movement. And I landed in a school, Dundalk, Maryland, that they were beginning to integrate. And their definition of integration was they were taking 5 black students and making them go to the all-white Bethlehem Steel Mill School. Now they knew to pick all boys, because they knew I don't do any Little Rock Nines, and we fought every day. And they knew we were going to fight every day. So they only let the boys go first. And we had to stick together. Because if you went to the bathroom, you had to go to the bathroom in at least 3. If you were going to fight, you went to the bathroom. But when I went there, I was already taking chemistry. I'm a 7th grader taking chemistry. I'm a 7th grader in Algebra 1. I'm a 7th grader who spoke fluent French. But they said, we don't know what school you came from. But we know you can't do those subjects. So they put me in remedial math, and they put me in remedial science, and they didn't even have a French class. So they couldn't put me in the French. Now what would that do to the mind of a normal kid? Imagine what that would do when the messages started coming on. You're not good enough for this. You can't do this. You aren't ready for this. But I found out I have my own little mantra I play in my own head. And I'll get back to the story of the situations where you can't give up your power. But my mantra was very similar, but not quite like the mantra or the motto or the theme that our first black president used when he was running for office. What was Barack Obama's battle cry? What was the theme that he used when he was running for office the first time? Anyone remember? Yes, we can. That's close, but not quite the one I was running in my mind, and have been all of my life. Yes, we can is a good theme, because we can do anything we are willing to set our minds and hearts to with the help of God. But we can do a lot of things we don't set our hearts and minds to. We can do a whole lot of things that we don't commit ourselves to do. My theme, yes, I will. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. You won't do math well in math and science. Yes, I will. And any time I'm told, you can't do that with my theme,
Yes, I will.
and you've got to make that your theme. Then transition into experience. Then you don't have to be as fearful of the unknown. Then you don't have to worry about what's waiting for you. All you've got to figure is, has anyone else ever done this before? They've done it. Yes, I will. So you go on up through the system, and I end up coming to California finally. And I got in my share of trouble, because even on the wrong side of the tracks, you can't go in that store and take that. I can't take that. And I was saying, yes, I will become the bad thing. Until I got my head on straight. But as it turns out, I'm now in California going to Seaside High School. And it's time to determine who's going to college and who's going to Vietnam to fight in the Vietnam War. Do you know who the majority of the individuals were in that Vietnam War? Soldiers of color. It was during the Vietnam War that the United States Army made the biggest transition that it has not come back from since. The United States Army didn't used to be all black and brown. That transition occurred during the Vietnam War when they needed bodies out there to die in that trouble. If you got in trouble in the 60s, as I was doing, you were given a choice. Join the military and go to Vietnam, or go to jail. Well, I found out there was a third option. Even though I hated school from kindergarten. I hated school from kindergarten. I didn't even like the nasty lunches they served. I didn't even like PE. Even though I was an athlete and played baseball, I'm lazy. I don't like running. But I found out you could get a student deferment if you went to college. You didn't have to go to Vietnam. And they said, well, you don't need to apply to college. You get in too much trouble. You won't do well in college. What answer did I give?
Yes, I will.
And went to college. Once I was in college, I said, I only have to stay in here so long, and then when this war is over, I can go back to what I was doing. The problem is we had a president by the name of Richard Nixon. Not only did he get reelected until they finally fired him, he kept the war not only going, but he spread it. So I graduated, and now I had to go to graduate school to stay up here. My academic advisor said, look, I know you don't like school. You get good grades, but your heart's not there. Maybe you don't need to go to graduate school. Maybe you need to stop, start a family, figure out what you want to do, and then go to graduate school. And I said, well, if I start a family, my family won't have me because I'm going to be over in that jungle. I have to go to graduate school. He says, no, you probably don't want to go to graduate school. My answer?
Yes, I will.
And it goes on and on and on. I finally graduated with a doctorate. A doctorate that's totally paid for by the school. Because if I'm going to take a class, I'm going to come out at the top of the class. Because even though they say I can't do that,
Yes, I will.
so I graduated. I began to work for Alameda County. Now, Alameda County is a different group. Well, it's a government agency. You'll find working for your government is different than working for corporate America, which is even more different than working for yourself. But when I worked for Alameda County, the Oakland Police Department used to use me. And I was young and I was foolish. But I'm always transitioning. Now, I'm a deviant, working for Alameda County Mental Health, and whenever the Oakland Police would have a young African American male in a situation where they thought they were going to have to assassinate him, to get him to come out of whatever situation he was in, they would call our mental health clinic if they thought there was a mental health problem, to see if there was any clinician foolish enough to go into that setting to make sure the brother didn't get killed. So the call would come through. We have a gentleman, he looks like he's about age 30. He has a blind grandmother at knife point with an infant because she wants to have the infant. He's saying he's not going to let her take the baby. Dr. Adams there? Yes, I'm here. You can come down. The apartment's on Seminary. You're not part of the Oakland Police Department. You're not on our force. You're not obligated. But we will give you 10 minutes if you want to go in there and see if you can get that knife out of his hand and get that grandmother and that infant out of there. Otherwise, we have to do it our way. Now, what's our way? They're going to blow him away and anyone who gets in the way. So my supervisor said, you don't have to do that. And I said, yeah, I think I have to do it. So I go up to the department and the police are out there in the front and they said, you want to go into that department? I said, mm-hmm. They said, you're not going to be able to talk him out of that night. He's out of his mind. And my response? Yes, I will. But I did leave one order for the police department. Please do not shoot the first thing that comes out of that door. Because if I get in there and lose it, you're going to be the first to I'm out of there. So I sit down in the chair closest to the door and I begin doing the talk, saying, look, brother, man, you're in big trouble. I'm trying to get you out of here alive. You do everything that I tell you, and I have the authority to have you land. At that time, they didn't have John George in Hardeman Hospital, psychiatric unit, and the police can't touch you. If you don't do everything that I ask you to do, they're going to kill you. And over and over and over again, they would do what I asked them. But it's not because I wasn't afraid. It's not because I'm a superhero. It's because I take risks. And I find out the more risks I take, the more successful I become. Do I lose a few? Yeah. To be honest with you, it's about 50-50. But the ones I succeed in overpower the ones that I don't. And God's in charge. I'm an old dinosaur now. He's kept me alive. You've got to be willing to go through the transition into the unknown and go with the battle cry. Yes, I will. You've got to not give up your power. Because people along the way say, you can't do this. This is scary. This is not right. You're not strong enough. You're not smart enough. You're not fast enough. You don't have the support system. Yes, you do. You, God, and whatever support system you've grown up with will be there with you. The main thing, yes, I will. And I just hear that one last time.
Yes, I will.